before I go any further, we did check our temperature. We did sanitize before starting the video, but obviously it's important to sanitize before touching your client's face. This is Buhle, by the way. You will be seeing her, more of her on our videos. I'll just sanitize her for you to see, guys. But we did our temperature check, so we are good to go. Okay, I have Buhle. Her face shape, I think it's more round, in between round and oval, but it's round. Let's just stick to round. So she has a round face, so we're gonna try to make it look a bit slimmer with contouring. Her face is clean. She did moisturize her face using the products that she's using. As you can see, she has an acne prone skin, so you need to be very gentle when you are working with a face like this. I have a similar problem, but what's important, don't pop your pimples before you apply anything, and make sure that you are always using clean brushes, because if you use dirty brushes, it contributes a lot on your face. Bacteria, it distributes bacteria on your face, and it makes your acne even worse. That's why sometimes people buy a breaker out whenever they wear makeup. Sometimes that is the problem. And get a brush, a good quality brush, because the bristles of the brush will also affect your face. So the first thing that I'll be applying on her face is a primer. This is a foundation primer. I got mine from Signature. It will help to smooth out the face and to fill up the pores of her face, just to make sure that when I apply a foundation, it looks nice and smooth. It doesn't make the pimples disappear, obviously. You need a thick layer, but we are going for a more natural look, not a heavy makeup. So the first thing I'll be doing, I'll use my foundation brush to apply. So I'll apply just a bit using a clean foundation brush. Make sure that I distribute it evenly on the face. I don't really like using my hands when I'm applying a primer on a client, because I feel like most of it gets left off on your hands. So with a brush, it distributes it perfectly, and it will fill up and blur all the pores on her face before we bring our foundation on top. If you have a very oily moisturizer on your face, make sure that you start with a powder. Especially if you have a very oily skin, start applying a powder to mattify your face, or use a mattifying primer. There is a mattifying primer, but I personally love this one because it's a gel. It works on every skin type. If I'm gonna be working with an oily skin, then after using the primer, I apply a powder before applying a foundation. We don't want to make her look dry. Makes the skin full smooth. Whenever you're gonna be bringing foundation on top, it's gonna look flawless. So the next step that I'm gonna do right now, I'll be applying foundation on her face. Remember I said we need to get a correct foundation, so that when you apply your highlight and when you contour your face, she doesn't look like she has a two-colored face, because it must complement the shade of her neck and the ears. So we don't want to use a light foundation, because she will look lighter here and dark here. So if it's dark, at least it must be a shade of her neck, and then that's where the highlight will come in. It will brighten up the whole look. The next step that we're gonna do now is covering up the spots on her face and whatever blemishes by using a concealer, but I use a foundation that is darker. Usually I use the foundation that I use to contour her face. So in this case, I'll be using this Rimmel foundation. It's a full coverage foundation. So I use it as my what is this thing called? I use it as my concealer to cover up whatever blemishes she might have on her face. Just not too much. I'll pump a little bit on the brush, and then I'll dab on the spots that I see on her face. As you can tell, can you turn your face? Sorry. As you can tell, it's too dark for her shade, but this, you will see once I'm done with this step why I did it. It helps to darken up the areas, the marks that are on her face. Okay, on this step you can use a concealer. You can use a concealer. It's actually a concealer that is perfect for covering, but for me, I feel like it's too heavy, and if you're gonna work with many clients, sometimes you can't buy all the concealers. So I always encourage improvising with whatever you have. In this case, I have foundations, so I use them as my concealers as well. So there's no need for me to buy a concealer. So I'll just dab this all over the face where I see dark spots. Can you turn your face for me? You see she has dark spots all over here, and then I'm just gonna dab on them. And always use a brushing technique when you are applying, and then dab just to get that full coverage. Now that all her spots are covered up, then I'll bring a foundation. You see there are no spots visible, but the tones are not the same, so it's not gonna work. And make sure that your lighting is perfect. Make sure that your lighting is perfect, because sometimes when you look at yourself in the mirror, if your light is not proper, you'll think you are looking fine, but the moment you step outside, it's a different story. You look like a clown. So make sure that you use a perfect light, and I highly recommend using a natural light whenever you are doing your makeup. Whatever makeup station you have, set it to in front of your window, and open your curtains if you have to, in order for you to get the natural light. So we're gonna move on to the foundation application step, because we are done concealing the face. And spread it all over her face. Remember, you don't have to use too much. You don't have to use too much foundation to apply. And always remember to cover your client's clothing. You shouldn't be doing what I'm doing here. She should be covered to protect her clothes. But we're just gonna continue. But don't be like me. Don't be like me. You see, the more I dab, it's becoming matte. And then you must check here. A foundation brush usually takes longer, because you have to dab until it blends. What you can do, you can use this flat brush. It's flat here, so it speeds up the process. Whenever you are in a rush, use this brush. And then you can always go back in where you feel like it's not completely covered and tap. I'm not giving her a full face beat. Don't forget to push the foundation to the jawline. And another thing, never mix used brushes with cleaned brushes. Make sure that you clean your brush after use, especially if you are working with clients, unless you're going to use it on yourself only. But it's highly recommended that you clean it every time after use, so that you'll have a fresh set of brushes the next morning when you need to apply your makeup. We are done. We're gonna move on to the next step. Okay, now that I'm done applying foundation on her face, we're gonna move on to the highlighting. I prefer applying a highlighter first before I contour the face, so that it balances it out. Using the very same foundation brush, I always keep a tissue next to me just to wipe it, just to take off the excess foundation that is left there, so that I'll be able to use it again. I'll now pump just a little bit. I'm using a natural caramel. It's lighter than her shade, so I'll be applying it to highlight those areas where I told you guys, whenever there's a light, it heats up those areas, which will be underneath your eye, the bridge of your nose, your forehead, your chin, sometimes your upper lip. And to get that contour very sharp, you can then apply the highlight underneath your face. I touched my face, so I'm going to sanitize again. So we're going to apply the highlighter now. Remember, on this step, you can use a lighter concealer or a highlighter. But for me, I feel like creamy highlighters, they don't dry up perfectly. I feel like they tend to crease a lot. Since we are wearing masks a lot these days, sometimes your makeup rubs off, so I want something that stays on. So for me, foundations work perfectly. They don't rub off as much as highlighters. I have these sculpture palettes which I got from Discam, a brand called Beauty Treat. You can start practicing with this. They are not expensive. It's something that you can practice with before you buy expensive products, because foundations are quite expensive. But like I said, for me it works perfectly because it doesn't rub off easily as the contouring palettes. I'll be applying this lighter shade underneath her eyes. You see, it's not too light because I'm still gonna add a powder on her face. We don't want to brighten it too much, because if you brighten it too much, it tends to flash back whenever you are exposed to light or flashlight, whenever you are taking pictures. So dab very gently. You don't want to press your brush too much. You see, I'm bringing it on the sides of her nose. This will help to make her nose look a bit slimmer. She has a beautiful nose already, but we just want to define it even more. You don't have to rush through this step. You see, the highlight is not too bright. That is why I love foundation, because sometimes you find it looking too ashy, too bright. It doesn't look natural anymore. Remember, whenever we are applying makeup, it's not always the case where you have to apply too much, where it should be too visible. For this, if you're gonna use this daily or on special occasions, if you wanna maintain that natural look, never go for a very light highlighter. Just make sure that everything is balanced out. And then I'm gonna tap on the forehead. Make sure that you don't, if your client doesn't have a wide forehead, then you can bring out the lighter shade here. But if she has a normal sized forehead, or it's bigger, then you can contour the areas of the forehead to make it look more slimmer. I'll be tapping. You see, it's not too highlighted. Another thing, we are trying to cover up the round circles that are usually appearing underneath our lines. And the bridge of the nose, you can highlight that. Not too much, because we're still going to use a shimmer on that. It will make it pop. So try to keep it as natural as much as possible. We all have different techniques. I always say that my way might look wrong to you, but it works. If it works, if it brings out the best results, then go ahead and try it. There's no wrong or right way of applying makeup. As long as you know why you're doing whatever you are doing, it's good. And the chin just a little bit, because a light usually hits here. And another area that I like to highlight is this part, because sometimes we get mustaches here and we don't want them appearing. So we're just going to press them down gently using this brush. And don't mind the foundation touching the lip, because it will be easier to draw a lip liner, especially if you're going to want to go for a nude lipstick. This is perfect. We are done highlighting. You see, it's not too much, it's not visible. So her makeup is going to look natural. Now we're going to move on to the contouring step. Now we're going back to the contouring step. Remember, I said the foundation that I used to conceal her marks, I'll be using the very same foundation to contour her face. We are sculpting the face now. We want to bring out the cheekbones. We want to minimize the forehead, just to make sure that the foundation is well blended. You don't want that harsh line that is usually visible, where it shows where you stopped applying your foundation. So I'll be just highlighting, just to bring out her cheekbones and to give her nose a nice slim shape. Okay, now just tilt your head a bit. We're going to focus on Can you suck in your chins so that they'll see? You see, this is the area that you need to contour, because it will bring out, it will make her cheekbones sharp. It's easier when you tell your client to do this, because you will know where exactly to place your contour. You see, I just placed it here, just a little bit, not too much. Using the tip of the brush, you're going to draw a straight line, or you can use your angled brush here. You can use your angled brush. You don't have to rush throughout this step. Make sure that you place your contour in the correct places. This will make her nose look slimmer. I'll put away this brush using this contouring brush. It's angled, so it becomes very easier to use before it dries out. The side of the brush, not the entire surface of the brush. You can start blending on the nose as well. Tap. You don't have to rub it. Just tap. But be careful when you like to begin using doing your eyebrows first. Be careful that you don't mess them up whenever you are applying your foundations and your contours. You see there's a harsh line around here. We don't want that. That's where this brush comes in again, that had a highlighter. You can add just a little drop, Remember I said if you don't set it immediately, it tends to crease underneath the eyes. So you can go in just underneath the eyes to remove those lines that have been created while you are applying your contour. And then we are moving on to the next step. Now we are setting her foundation. Using a small powder brush, we will use our translucent powder. I'm using this signature translucent powder. Remember I said translucent is perfect because it's clear, it doesn't take away the color. So you can just tap on the lid. Don't pick too much, because we don't want to have fallouts from the foundation. Since I didn't cover her, I don't want to mess up her clothes. Tap lightly, don't rub off. Already everything is dried out. Only set with the translucent powder where you applied your highlighter, because if you apply it to the rest of the face, it will look very ashy. Turn your head for me. Remember this area, we want a sharp jawline, but it shouldn't be too sharp as well. Yeah, you don't have to do that, because I can visibly see the line. Then you can leave out enough powder for this area and allow it to sit there. It will make the jawline more defined. You see, this is what I was talking about. A client shouldn't have makeup all over her face. Luckily, I'm using a clear powder, and she's still gonna change. So it doesn't matter now. Can you turn your head? and then this side. It's easier when you are using what is this thing? When you are using wedge sponges to apply the powders here. It's very easy. It places them in a perfect position and the shape is perfect. Whatever excess powder, put it back here. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next step where I'll be using a bronzing powder, but at this stage I'm using a pressed powder which I got from Maybelline. It's a shade darker than her. It's dark, it's very dark. I'm using cinnamon. I want that bronzed up look. We don't want her looking ashy. It will help to balance out whatever I applied on her face. Okay, I'll be using this shade this powder. This is a pressed powder in a shade Cinnamon from Maybelline. I wanted a shade that was darker than her so that it will bronze up the entire face. You can use a bronzer, but I don't really like bronzers because sometimes they tend to shimmer. So a pressed powder works perfectly. So just dab, don't rub, dab, because it becomes too powdery if you rub. You see, I'm taking just a little bit and then lightly I'll go to her cheekbones. I'll dab it on her cheekbones, moving up to her forehead. Can you turn your head? As you can see, it's nicely contoured. And the jawline. Around her forehead, push it to her hairline. I only apply this powder on the contoured areas of her face. And what I like to do, if you don't have a small brush, I pinch the very same brush that I'm using. It should look like this when you pinch it. Then this is how it should look when you pinch it. You see it becomes flat here. Then I tap again. And then I go into the sides of her nose, pressing down gently without rubbing. You see how defined that line becomes. Pinch again and then tap on your powder. We are setting the contour that we did on her nose. Okay, moving on to the next step. This step is totally optional because this item that I'm going to be using, if you are using the translucent powder, it works more like the same. But because I want that yellow tone on her face, I'm going to be using this banana powder. Just take a little bit, not too much, just to dust off underneath her eyes, the highlighted area. Applying too much just to clean up the highlighted area. Sometimes I use a pressed powder that is a shade lighter than my clients, because another thing that we want to avoid, whenever she has tears rolling down her face, we don't want those drawings that happen over here. The reason I don't want to use a very lighter shade on her face. Can you turn for me? Make sure that you don't leave excess powder on the client's face. We don't want them looking like an ashtray. You see, it's still very matte at this point. She shouldn't walk out looking like that, obviously. Remember, I said I'm not giving her a full face beat. I just wanted to show you how to contour. And then we're gonna move on to this next step. I really like, but other people don't want this step. It's the blusher. It warms up the face. It doesn't look cakey or ashy. Once you bring a blusher on top everything just works out perfectly. I'll be using this angled blusher brush of mine just to apply a blusher, just to warm up her face. Can you smile for me? Yeah, we want the apples of her cheeks. That's where you apply the blusher, in circular motions. Remember not to apply too much. Make sure that you do the circular motions so that it blends very well. We're gonna move on to the next side. You see the cheekbone is very defined at this point. Once she smiles, it's easier for you to locate the area where you need to apply your blusher, because we don't want it sitting down or too high. We want to place it in a correct area. Sometimes I like putting it on the tip of the nose, just a little bit. And then I go in with a plain clean brush just to blend out everything, circular motions, to remove excess powder, just to make sure that everything is well blended. Okay, another thing that I'm gonna do now, I'll be setting the face using this spray, this mist spray. It makes the face look dewy. I like a dewy makeup. I don't want a cakey makeup. So your client must close her eyes before you spray it. You don't want to spray your client's eyes. From a distance, then you will spray it all over the face and then allow it to dry. I use this fan to dry it up, speed up the process. I like setting the face before I apply my shimmer. Make sure that the face is dry first before you apply the shimmer. The face is completely dry, and then now I'll be using this illuminating powder to give her face that shine that we need. Using a small blending brush, it's for eyeshadow, but I use it to apply the bronzer on the tip of the nose. Not the bronzer, the shimmer I mean. I'll just tap a little bit and then tap on her nose. Don't drag it throughout the nose because it will make the nose look longer. So we just want to make it look sharp instead of longer. Just here, and then don't touch this gap, and then move on to the tip of the nose. Using a small, I like using a fan brush. This is my fan brush. I like using the fan brush. Don't take too much, and then you're gonna move on top of the blusher and apply it here, just to bring that natural glow again on her face. Can you turn for me? Can you see that? It's very nice. Push it to her hair. I like doing this on the forehead as well, and the chin and the upper lip. This is where the light usually hits you. And then once again, I go in with this plain brush just to push down everything. If there's any excess shimmer on her face, it will just take it off. Okay, what are we going to do next? Remember, I said we're not going to do a full face beat. This is how a contoured face should look. Her face looks more slimmer now. Her nose looks more sharp. So what I'll do, I'll take this brush of mine to brush her eyebrows, just to remove the powder on her eyebrows. Using my setting spray, I'll clean up the eyebrows. We are giving her a very natural look. I'm not adding anything here because the tutorial was for contouring. I'll put up another tutorial for your eyebrows. This is just to clean them off, to do proper eyebrows. Yeah, I'll give you a tutorial for that. And then we're just gonna apply a mascara on her eyes. I hope she doesn't cry on me. I hope she just face down, look down. This can be your everyday office look, anywhere. It works. And then later on you can glam it up. but during the day you can remain looking like this with your snatched face. Here's a trick: if you are working with clients that cry a lot, ask them to face down and then you hold the eyelid that it doesn't blink too much and they don't get to look at the brush, because if they look at the brush directly they panic and then you end up putting the brush inside the eye. Are you crying? Okay. Another thing I'm gonna do, I'll just put a lip liner just to give her lips a shape. You see how smooth that liner is running on the lips? Never make this line too harsh. Never, 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 never do that. Other lip liners, they come out with a blender at the back, so you should check them out. There's usually that thing that looks like it's a tanning thingy. If you pull it out, it has actually something that looks like a rubber that you can use for this step just to tone down the lip liner, because it shouldn't be too much. It is just used to give your lips a perfect shape. Because we want to give her a natural, beautiful color, we're gonna be using this Rose Petals shade from Elizabeth Arden. It has a pink tone, but not too pink. Using a brush, I'll just rub it on her lips. Don't want to apply too much because we're still gonna add a lip gloss on her lips just to make them, just to give her that glow, that natural glow. A glossy lip always makes your makeup glowy. It looks like it's glowy. That lip liner is not too much. And then we're gonna add a lip gloss. This is a Shine lip gloss from, what is this, Essence brand. If you have thicker lips, what I always advise you to do, just put it on the center of your lips and then leave it there. But if you have small lips, you can apply it all over your lip, because the more you apply gloss on your lips, the bigger they look. So you can just tap your lips for me. Let's just give her pouted lips. Don't put it here on the corners of the lip. It looks nasty. And then this is a final look. It looks very clean. It looks very natural. I'm avoiding putting an eyeliner on her face because we want to have this very clean, fresh look. Camera. Voila, this is your look. Do you like it? Are you ready? So this is it, guys. I hope you found this very informative and very educational. I hope you found something that you will be able to take and apply in your daily makeup skills. And if you feel like you were left behind somewhere, feel free to comment down below and ask whatever question you want to ask, and do make suggestions on what you want to see on my videos. Remember, these videos are helping you to improve on your skills wherever you want to improve. I'm not just making videos just for the fun of it. I'm helping others who need to improve on their makeup level skills. And again, I would like to thank the National Arts Council for making all of this possible. I will see you on the next video. You can make a request on what you want to see on the next video, or you'll just wait for me to upload what you would love to see. I would also like to thank Cwell Music and Media PR for always guiding us into the right direction. It helps a lot with the image of the business as well. We are growing, getting there, and I would like to thank you guys for supporting me and for viewing my videos. I see your messages all the time. They mean a lot. Thank you so much for the love. I hope you stay blessed. I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.